In this video, we'll explore why money becomes a trap and how to stop depending on it. You learn why wealth isn't a goal, but merely an attribute. What is importance and how does it hinder you? How do pendulums force us to work toward other people's goals? And what should we do to make money flow into our lives in simple terms, with examples and 7-day practice? Imagine that money isn't a goal. We've been taught the opposite since childhood. Work, earn, save, and only then will you be able to afford what you want. But there's a paradox. The harder you chase money, the more often it eludes you. Money comes precisely when you stop making it your primary focus. It's like in relationships. When you cling too tightly to someone, they begin to distance themselves. Think about it. After all, we've all had a moment when money appeared unexpectedly. An order you weren't expecting came in, a job you weren't looking for came in, or an old debt you'd long forgotten about came in. Why does this happen? Because in those moments, you weren't focused on the money itself, but on something else. And that's when it came. Today, I'll tell you why this works and how to stop being a slave to your wallet. In a few minutes, you'll understand that the scariest thing about money isn't losing it. The scariest thing is when you start living only for it. I'll also give you a simple money addiction test that most people fail. But first, let's figure out where this myth about money being the main goal comes from. You didn't just watch this video. So, you also have questions about money. Why is there never enough? How can you stop worrying about spending? And what should you do to make it come easier? Let's agree right away. In the next half hour, I won't give you a magic get-rich button, but I will show you how to stop running in circles and exit the game where money always controls you. What's next? First, we'll figure out why most people are in money shortage mode and how it sucks you in unnoticed. Then I'll explain in simple terms what these pendulums are, which often cause us to live by someone else's goals. After that, we look at the most dangerous hook. Importance. It's what makes money unattainable. And most importantly, I'll give you a step-by-step 7-day protocol that you can actually try right after watching. And yes, remember the money addiction test. We'll get to it soon, so watch this video to the end. Imagine two guys who work at the same company and earn the same salary. Let's call them Peter and Andrew. At first glance, everything seems the same. Their job titles, their salaries, even their expenses, but their lives are completely different. Every payday, Peter opens his calculator and immediately starts counting. So, utilities, food, mortgage, almost nothing left. What if I lose my job? How will I survive until the end of the month? He's constantly worried, complaining to his friends about how little money he has. And even when he makes a purchase, instead of feeling happy, he experiences fear. What if I wasted it? Andrew spends just as much as Peter, but his approach is completely different. He doesn't hang on to every penny, doesn't whine, and doesn't overdramatize. When he buys something, he's happy. When he spends something, he lets it go. And the most interesting thing. New opportunities come to him more often. He'll be offered a part-time job, given a bonus, or invited to a project. Two people, the same salary, but completely different realities. One is constantly tense and lives in a state of scarcity, the other is freer and has more opportunities. Why is that? What makes Andrew a magnet for money and Peter a perpetual complainer? We'll come back to this story a little later, closer to the end of the video. Now let's look at what exactly triggers this scarcity lifestyle. If you ask people why they don't have enough money, almost everyone will give the same reason. I don't earn enough. But the truth is, salary alone doesn't explain why some people's money lingers and grows, while others constantly slip through their fingers. The psychology of habit is at work here, or more precisely, an internalized mindset of scarcity. So what does this mean? Imagine a person who thinks only about how much they don't have. They go to the store and grumble. Everything's gotten more expensive again. They sit down to do their bills and get irritated. I'll have to cut back again. Even when they receive money, they greet it not with joy, but with anxiety. What if it runs out soon? Ultimately, their entire focus is on the lack. And what happens? The lack grows even greater. It works like a vicious circle. The more a person fixates on the lack, the less they notice opportunities. And even when an opportunity presents itself right in front of him, he doesn't see it because his mind is constantly preoccupied with anxiety. And fear is the most powerful emotion. It literally obscures your path, so you find yourself, again and again, on life's paths where there's truly not enough money. There's a tricky trap here. When you're short on money, it seems natural to worry and count every penny. But it's precisely this worry that keeps you stuck. It's like trying to climb out of a hole by continuing to dig down. The more you fuss and whine, the deeper you sink into scarcity mode. The solution begins with awareness. Money doesn't like to be greeted with fear or pity. It needs to be met calmly, without unnecessary fuss or drama. If you receive a sum of money, rejoice. If it leaves, let it go. And that's where the hardest part comes in. The brain says, God protects those who protect themselves. Think ahead. But in reality, constant worry only makes things worse. You've probably noticed that many people seem to live by someone else's script. Some chase a prestigious position because that's the norm. Some ruin their health for a new car just so their neighbors don't think they're inferior. And some toil away at a job they hate just for a steady paycheck, even though deep down they've been rebelling. This is how pendulums work. The pendulum isn't magic or mysticism. It's any system that drains your energy, imposing its rules. The company you work for, fashion, the media, even your social circle, they all offer you an exchange. Give us your attention, energy, and time, and we'll give you a sense of significance, security, or the appearance of success. The problem is that the pendulum has its own goals. It doesn't think about your happiness. It only cares about you continuing to play by its rules. And money is a very convenient tool for it. Money is easy to manage, it can motivate, it can keep you hooked. This is where the myth comes from. You need money to achieve any goal. But in reality, it's the opposite. When you have a goal that's truly yours, money just follows. Imagine a simple scenario. A person dreams of traveling the world. Their real goal is to see new countries, meet people, and experience cultures. But instead of looking for ways to get there right now, they tell themselves, first I'll get rich, then I'll travel. And that's it. The goal is pushed aside. Attention shifts to money, and therefore to pendulums, which begin to dictate their terms. As a result, they work hard for someone else's goal and success, while their desire remains for later. Pendulums love this state, when a person loses touch with their true desires. They think they want money, but in reality, they want freedom, joy, and experiences. But instead, they run a marathon of money for money's sake. And the most frustrating thing is that even after reaching the finish line, he realizes there's no happiness there. That's how the trap works. At first, it seems harmless. Just a little more work, simply the desire to earn enough for something important. But gradually the pendulum pulls harder, and the person loses sight of their true goal and the imposed one. Now let's ask. If money isn't a goal, but merely an attribute, then what should truly be at the center? This is where the most important thing begins. Imagine two paths. On the first, people pursue money as the ultimate goal. They think, once I get rich, then I'll really live. On the second path, people pursue their true desires: travel, creativity, family, a sense of freedom. Money isn't on a pedestal there. It's alongside, like a companion. The question is, which path are you taking? Most people choose the first. Because it's easier to explain life to yourself, I need money so that. And then comes a long list from buy an apartment to feel successful. But what happens in reality? A person focuses not on what they really want, but on an abstract bag of money. And ultimately, they start playing by someone else's rules, the rules of the pendulums we discussed. Baz mi prostoi primer. Kochish dom es adam, dimajno varashchevit rosi. Idot voyan estoish chayat sel, kartinka, kodaraya vis ivat radist. No jesli ti del ish dengi samwait selu, so pravrashche etsya v gonku. Nado zarabadit stalko tu, ne kopit takuyu tu samu, dot yanat du a togo yuravnya I dam s razami postepeno akitit nav toroi plan. Maz vidit talko chisla na shot, and a real niumektu. At teeper dav a predstavam abratnist senarity. I do maishna o milaonik, a os voyam dome. Zapik raz, etreni chain na verand. Ada kartinka napolnya at tebya energii, I tina chinaish iskat puti relizavit yeo priamo saches. Mazhit, snachala na bolshoi uchastok, mazhit, s yamni domik, nov namani napravleno not sel, and na meshak estingami. V idij poyavlye utsya niaz hidani vazmiz nasti, I dengi podyu give utsya sami. V edamai kroyetsyu glavny paradox. Kogda dengi stan of yatsyu is lavium shastya, shastya nabuted. Ogda shastya stan of itsya tselyu, dengi prikityat, patomuch to oniv segolish instrument. Oni ispolnyat svoi rol. Edo kakes kizlorodum. Miv cm disham, no niktona stavit seebd sel nakopit pobelsh kisleroda. Tai prosto javash I delish svoyo dilo. A kislerod priatum segdariatum. Tax iastingami. Oni doljni bit attributum tvoyi zhizni, and a fetishum, vokrig kodorogov so krutitsya. Oprabai priamo sacha zatit seeb prostoi vopros. Chego yukachu na samam del, yesli uprit dengi is a togo uravnania. Otvit tebya mazhit udavid. Dlya kogo tu edo vremia smyoi, dlya kogo tu putashestvia, dlya kogo tu rizavit kartni, pisit muziku, streit svoi projekt. Edo I jest voyan astoyish chayat sel. At teeper vajni moment. Mayatniki butit ubejdet tebya via bratnam. Oni butit vnushid. Net, snachala meshak denig, apodum so ostal apostrophe noye. I vot tut voya zadachina kupitsya naadit blesk. Nastoyish chaya jiz nachinaetsu ameno tam, d dengiv segolish sputnik, and akazyain. Yesliv nimatelno prismatretsya, topachtiv si nashi problemi estingami upiratsya v odno slovo. Vajnist. Kogdamai kemu tu prideam slishkum bolshoi is nachenia, edo pravrashche etsya v is bitachnoyan apriazhenia. I chem silnai my durzam edo v golov, tem bolshizn stavit nam palki v kolosa. Jest vot tipavizhnosti. Perviv nutranyaya. Edo kogda chelavakubejde et sebya. Ya sabani, ya doles and dokazit, chto ya dostoi and ili, ne abrit. Yanich tajni, you menyanakogda nachego na poluchitsya kazalos by, v raznia pozitsi, no posudi edo od no idaji. V oboik slecheik mis atsaklive emsya nasibst venoi person I vozvidam vokrig sebya nanujnia beryari. Vtoroi tipnishnyaya. Edo kogda my reshaam, chto kakoya tu sabidio ili object imayat agromni ves. Naprimer. Yesli yana polachu edu rabodu, so propalo ili. Yesli yana sabaru opradelan iusamu, tajizna udalas apostrophe v takia momenti liuboya pripyatstvia pravrashche etsya v katastrofu, a mulkaya shibka stanovitsya tragedii. Poprabiv spomnitsa tuitsiu, kogda tib nujno bilo proidi pope revnu, lezhish kemu na zimal. Prosto I legko, pravda. Teeper predstav taji samoya brevno, no perekonutoya mejdu krishamit vokdamov. I votai uz drazish, katya samo dastvia absolutno adinakavoya. Raznitsalish v tom, chto v odnam sluche dlya tebya edo bilonis ushchist veno, a v drugam zhizneno vajno. Imeno takai rabadi at vajnist v zhizni. My sami nakrichiveam seeb, chto edo shans vse moi zhizni ili bez atogo ni konets, I tut jiv kliacheotsya sili, katorian achinaet rushit si plani. Buto mirspachil no pravariat, niskalko krepko miv tsepalises. Gem silnai chela vectors itsya, tem balnai yego otrasivat nazid. I ne abrit. Kogda on snizhayat znachimost, so nachinaet skladavatsu proshch. Zamidal, chto samya udachni of stretchy, stelki ili pakupki proiskadili togda, kogda tai bil spokoyan. Bez lishnego tripeda, bez paniki, bez pifosa. Imeno ito I yes sostoyani ravnavasia, d net is bidich nogo potentiala. A shib koi tut butit pitatsya potavit emotsi. Yesliv nutriv so burlid, as narazhi tai delish vid, chto spokoyan, ito talko usilivate napriazhenia. Tut vaj no ponyat navneshnist, aatna shenia. Spomnit, chto sabidia idov segolish sabidia, and of rashina sudbi. Chto ashibka idov segolish opit, and akonits veda. I kogda chelavak peresteat razjavit vajnist, on polacheat svobotu vibrit, probavit, riskavit. Atam, diest logkist, tam I poyavliatsya dengi, patomuch toonina libut dramu. Skazit seb. Nu ladno, nabutu pritavit itomuzi nachieniya ito legko. No kak stelit tak, chtobi ito real no zarabotalo. Zdesas pomagayat prostia priami, katoria majno treniravit vipavsidnevnoi zhizni. Pervoya Strakovka. Kogda tai stavish so na ataniskod, liabaya melich pravrashchayatsya v katastrofu. Yesli napolichitsya, tazemlya idit is pod nog no yesli utebya yestsapasnoi variant, tanapriazhenia padate. Naprimer, tai idosh nas abasedavania. Yesli dumaish, chto ito yedinstvani shans I drugogo nabutit, uravan vizhnostis ashkolivad. Yesli utebya jest yeshcho para alternative so stanovitsya garazdo proshch. Tilo I umri ajiriat spokenai, I tai vedosh sebya uvranai. Vtoroya humor. Ito universalnoya arazhya prodavs avishenwise nachamasti. Poprabai v Golov Prever. 070b8, 1VLH5. 5000. Take a simple example. Do you want a house with a garden where you can grow roses? That's your true goal, a vision that evokes joy. But if you make money the goal itself, everything turns into a race. You need to earn a certain amount, save a certain amount, reach that level and the house with roses gradually fades into the background. The brain sees only the numbers in the account, not the real dream. Now let's imagine the opposite scenario. You're not thinking about millions, but about your home. The scent of roses, morning tea on the veranda. This image fills you with energy, and you begin to look for ways to realize it right now. Maybe at first it's a small plot of land, maybe a rented house, but your focus is on the goal, not a bag of money. Eventually, unexpected opportunities arise, and the money comes naturally. This is the main paradox. When money becomes a prerequisite for happiness, there will be no happiness. When happiness becomes the goal, money comes because it's just a tool. It fulfills its purpose. It's like oxygen. We all breathe it, but no one sets a goal to accumulate more oxygen. You simply live and do your job. And the oxygen is always there. The same goes for money. It should be an attribute of your life, not a fetish around which everything revolves. Try asking yourself a simple question right now. What do I really want if I remove money from this equation? The answer might surprise you. For some, it's time with family, for others, travel, for others, painting, writing music, building their own project. That's your true purpose. And now here's the important point. Pendulums will convince you otherwise. They'll tell you, no, first a bag of money, and then everything else. And your task here is not to fall for this glitz. Real life begins precisely where money is just a companion, not a master. If you look closely, almost all of our money problems boil down to one word. Importance. When we attach too much importance to something, it turns into excessive stress. And the more we hold it in our minds, the more life throws a spanner in the works. There are two types of importance. The first is internal. This is when a person convinces themselves, I'm special, I have to prove myself worthy. Or, conversely, I'm worthless, I'll never succeed. These may seem like two different positions, but they're essentially the same thing. In both cases, we become fixated on ourselves and build unnecessary barriers around ourselves. The second type is external. This is when we decide that some event or object has enormous weight. For example, if I don't get this job, everything is lost. Or, If I don't save a certain amount, my life is a failure. In such moments, any obstacle turns into a catastrophe, and a minor mistake becomes a tragedy. Try to remember a situation where you had to walk across a log lying on the ground. Simple and easy, right? Now imagine the same log, but slung between the roofs of two houses. Now you're shaking, even though the action itself is exactly the same. The only difference is that in one case it was insignificant to you, while in the other it was vital. This is exactly how importance works in life. We wind ourselves up thinking, this is the chance of a lifetime, or without this, I'm doomed. And then forces kick in that begin to ruin all our plans. It's as if the world is deliberately testing how tightly we've clung. The tighter a person holds on, the more painfully they're thrown back. And vice versa. When they reduce importance, everything begins to unfold more easily. Have you noticed that your most successful meetings, deals, or purchases happened when you were calm? Without unnecessary trepidation, without panic, without pathos. This is precisely the state of balance, where there is no excess potential. The mistake here would be trying to suppress emotions. If everything is seething inside, but you pretend to be calm on the outside, it only increases the tension. It's important to understand your attitude, not your appearance. Remember that an event is just an event, not the pinnacle of your destiny. That a mistake is just an experience, not the end of the world. And when a person stops overinflating things, they gain freedom, the freedom to choose, to try, to take risks. And where there's ease, that's where money comes in, because it doesn't like drama. Telling yourself, okay, I won't pay attention to this, is easy. But how do you make it work? Simple techniques that you can practice in your everyday life can help. First, insurance. When you bet everything on one outcome, any small thing turns into a catastrophe. If it doesn't work out, the ground will fall out from under your feet. But if you have a backup plan, the tension eases. For example, you're going to a job interview. If you think this is your only chance and there won't be another, the level of importance goes through the roof. If you have a couple more alternatives, everything becomes much simpler. Your body and mind react more calmly, and you act more confidently. Second, humor. It's a universal weapon against inflated importance. Try to transform it in your head. Turn your most important problem into a caricature. Imagine your presentation at work is a play where you play the role of a slightly confused hero. Or that your strict boss is a character in a comedy cartoon. As soon as a bit of humor appears in the situation, the tension immediately dissipates. You remain a real person, not a tense robot. Third, action. The most insidious state is when you only think and stress, but do nothing. Your brain spins scenarios, invents problems, and the importance of the situation grows. There's only one solution. Take action. Take a step and it becomes easier. Let it be a small action. Call, send an email, write a draft. When energy gets moving, it stops getting stuck inside and turning into anxiety. It's important to combine these techniques. Let's say you have an important deal coming up. You come up with an alternative in advance. If it doesn't work out here, I'll try somewhere else. Add a little humor, imagine your partners in ridiculous costumes. And instead of dwelling on it, you take a small step, at least set a meeting. Ultimately, the tension dissipates and you approach the situation calmly. Sometimes it seems that devaluing your importance makes you indifferent. But that's not true. The difference is that you stop living in panic and start living in the process. You still have emotions, desires, and goals. They just don't become a burden that weighs you down. Many people have extreme relationships with money. They either become slaves to their wallets and are afraid to spend an extra penny, or they treat it too carelessly and throw it around left and right. But money is just a tool. Like any tool, it should be treated with respect, but not fanatically. What does respect mean? It means not ignoring money. Imagine a simple situation. You're walking down the street, see a coin on the ground, and are too lazy to pick it up. It seems like a small thing, but habitually you're signaling, I don't care. Money doesn't like being completely devalued. At the same time, you shouldn't turn it into a cult, clinging to every penny with the thought, just don't lose it. Money thrives on movement. When it stagnates, it turns into anxiety. It's like water. If you keep it in a sealed jar and don't use it, it will go bad. It's the same with savings. When a person clings to a large sum of money and is afraid to spend it, the stronger the desire to hold on to it, the higher the risk that the money will disappear unexpectedly through fines, illness, or breakdowns. But when money is spent consciously, it fulfills its purpose and returns. Balance is key here. Conscious spending means not squandering everything on trifles, but also not regretting every ruble. If you decide to buy and let go. If you decide to invest and watch the results. When you spend, it's important not to regret it, but to feel that the money is working. There's another way to maintain a healthy flow: sharing. This is precisely why wealthy people often engage in charity. It's not just about good deeds, but also about energy. When money flows through you, rather than getting stuck, it ceases to be a source of stress. The secret to money hygiene is simple. Greet money with gratitude, let it go calmly, respect the little things, but don't turn it into a fetish. Then it becomes a natural flow, not a heavy burden. But knowing the theory is one thing. If you want to feel real results, you need to practice. I suggest a simple week-long experiment. This isn't magic, nor a wealth spell. These are real steps that will help you shift your mindset from scarcity to flow. Days 1 and 2: taking an inventory of your priorities. Take a piece of paper and write down all the situations where you're overwhelmed. Money, work, relationships. Check off the items that cause fear or constant anxiety. These are your priorities. The goal of these 2 days is simply to notice where you're going too far. Day 3: insurance. Choose one item from the list and come up with an alternative. Let's say you're worried, if I don't get this job, it's the end. Write down. If it doesn't work out here, I'll try at another company, or I can launch my own project. When you have a backup plan, the importance drops dramatically. Day 4. Money isn't about money. Write down a specific goal that inspires you and remove the word money from it. For example, instead of "I want to earn $1 million," write "I want to travel 3 months a year," or "I want to work remotely and live by the sea." Let money remain an attribute, not a focus. Day 5. Small actions. Choose one simple action that will bring you closer to your goal. Sign up for a course, call a relevant person, take the first steps on a project. The key is not to overthink things, but to take action. Even a small action reduces anxiety and opens up new opportunities. Day 6. An act of generosity. Share some of your money. This doesn't have to be a large charity. Buy a friend a coffee, leave a generous tip, or donate a symbolic amount. It's important to feel like money flows freely through you, rather than clinging to your hands. Day 7. Inner observer. 3 times a day, stop and ask yourself, where am I overthinking things right now? It may be difficult to pinpoint this moment at first, but over time, you'll begin to catch yourself automatically. This week is just a practice. But if you go through it honestly, you'll feel anxiety and there will be less and more ease. And with this, opportunities will begin to appear that you simply didn't notice before. Remember Peter and Andrew? 2 friends who started out similarly but took different paths. Andrew chose a calm focus on the goal, while Peter clung to money as the main meaning of his life. Well, in life, there are most Peters like this. And this is precisely where the trap lies. The most common mistake is confusing the goal with the means. People say, "I want money." But if you ask more deeply, why? It turns out that this phrase conceals specific desires. Freedom, travel, a comfortable home, peace of mind for the family. Money in itself doesn't bring joy. It is needed only as a bridge. But if a person focuses only on the bridge, they risk getting stuck halfway and never reaching their true goal. The second trap is the cult of accumulation. Here, people are afraid to spend, afraid of losing money. They become the guardians of a treasure chest, where money becomes a symbol of security. But life shows. The more you cling, the faster circumstances take it away. Illnesses, breakdowns, unexpected expenses, all of this seems to happen deliberately to relieve unnecessary stress. The third trap is other people's goals. Pendulums masterfully slip them in as your own. Advertising, social media, and your surroundings, everything tells you that success looks exactly like this. An expensive car, designer clothes, a vacation in a trendy place. And people start running towards them, even if deep down they don't really need it. And when they reach it, they discover emptiness. Andrew managed to avoid these traps because he constantly asked himself one simple question. Is this really my desire? He didn't chase imposed images or put money on a pedestal. He took steps toward what ignited him, and money followed like a natural companion. Returning to Peter, we can see that he didn't lose by being lazy or stupid. He lost by falling into the trap of self-importance. His energy was spent not on his dream, but on worrying about his wallet. And while he lived in this state, no amount of effort yielded results. Such stories are repeated around us every day. Some are perpetually dissatisfied with their salary, but don't take steps toward their goals. Some earn a decent income but are afraid to spend it. Some toil away for someone else's dream and wonder why they feel so empty inside. The traps vary, but the essence is the same. People forget that money isn't everything.